Hello everybody and welcome to Mr. Stansfield's Education Videos. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Heic or Heic format. And we're going to be looking at Adobe Bridge here. So the Heic format is Apple's proprietary high efficiency file format for photos, and it's the default file format for photos on an iPhone when you get your phone. You can set it up so that your phone captures in Jpeg, and in general, I recommend this. I think that Jpeg, being a more universally recognized file format, often has a little bit of a better kind of functionality. The cost is that the Heic format takes up slightly less space. So if you're always trying to delete photos, looking for space on your phone, something like that, maybe Heic format is going to be for you. But Heic can give us some problems when we go to edit in Adobe Photoshop or use Adobe Bridge. These days, if you're working with the latest computer and the latest version of Adobe's software, it should work pretty seamlessly. However, you may run into some problems, and that's what we're going to take a look at today. So I'm in Adobe Bridge here, and you can see I've got 6 Heic files in this folder. Okay. Now these files are Heic format. If I double click on one of these in Bridge, the default for most file formats should open that file in Photoshop, but it doesn't. So this is where one of the issues that can come up. It opens up in Preview. Okay, and the reason is because I'm using a version over here. This is Adobe Bridge CC 2018. We just have an older version on this machine, and it will allow me to open the photo in Photoshop, but I just have to take the extra step of right-clicking and then go Open With and click on Adobe Photoshop where it says Preview is the default. It'll open up in Photoshop. If I click on Photoshop, it takes a little bit of an extra kind of step, and if you want to avoid that extra step, and I can just close that. We don't want to save it. Let's go back to Bridge. If you want to avoid that extra step, if you wanted to set the default program for Heic files to Photoshop, that's actually pretty easy to do. Here is how you're going to do that. Right-click on the file and then Reveal in Finder. We have to use the Finder to do this. So if you're in Bridge, find the file in Finder. And you can do this with any Heic file, and you don't necessarily have to start in Bridge. You could just navigate to an Heic file in the Finder. The trick is, what we're going to do is right-click this, and then we're going to choose Get Info. And then we are going to go ahead and the Open With panel here, we're going to click on the Open With, and you can see that the default is Preview. We're going to choose Photoshop, and then we're going to change all. Okay, and it says, do you want to make sure all Heic files are opened up with Adobe Photoshop CC 2018? We'll say yes. That's it. Now, when we go back to Bridge, if we double click on any Heic file, it should open up in Adobe Photoshop. So this is what we want to do, especially if you're working with this older version of Adobe Photoshop 2018. The latest versions of Photoshop should sort of automatically do this. It depends on your machine, it depends on your setup. But this is one way that you can do it within the Apple operating system settings. It'll point to Photoshop with the Heic file. So that's one thing I would recommend. Now here's another thing. If you wanted to convert all of your Heic files to JPEG, that's also very easy to do in Photoshop. What we're going to do is use the image processor. So the first step is to select the files that you want to convert. You could choose a folder, you could select all, right? You can do that up here. Command A is the shortcut key. So if you had 100 photos or something, you don't have to manually go through with the mouse, you can just select all. Tools, Photoshop, and image processor is the thing that we're going to use. Now, because we've selected the images in Bridge, and it will sometimes give you this warning, Photoshop is busy, it's not busy. You just say yes, and it'll let you continue here. We're going to go ahead and skip step 1 and step 2. We're going to save it in the same location, and we're going to process these files from Bridge. Step 3, the file type, we want to convert to JPEG. We want to make sure that PSD and TIFF are unchecked, unless you want a PSD and a TIFF, in which case go ahead and select those. I recommend the quality is 12. I recommend converting the profile to sRGB if, in fact, you are shooting, these Heic files. You're not always going to choose this, but for most of the classes that I'm teaching, especially at the high school level, I would recommend this. You're not going to resize, but if you wanted to batch resize, you could resize to fit a certain pixel dimension to automatically resize a bunch of photos. You could do that really easily. And then we're not going to run an action, and we are going to include an Hcic profile. Okay, so once again, skip 1 and 2. Once you've selected the images, go with the default for 1 and 2. Step 3, save as JPEG, change the quality to 12, check convert profile to sRGB, make sure that resize to fit is unchecked, uncheck PSD, uncheck TIFF, uncheck run action, do check include Hcic profile, and then run. And what is going to happen is that each file is going to open up here in Photoshop, it's going to save it as a JPEG, and that's it. It closes the file. And because we have 6 files, it's going to take, about a second per file there. If we go back to Bridge, now there's this folder, this JPEG folder. If we double click on it, it's the same image, it's the same size, but it's a JPEG. So JPEG's much more universally friendly to a majority of programs. Hcic file, the issue with Hcic files is that some programs won't recognize it, some programs won't actually let you open up the file. And that's the issue with the Hcic, and this is why you may want to do one or both of these things, setting up Photoshop as the default program for Hcic files and or converting all of your images to JPEG using the image processor in Photoshop. So there you go. Hope that was helpful.